Hello, good day. My name is Tamara, and I'm the owner of RuckWood Recovery LLC, a licensed and registered Heirfinder service located in St. Louis, Missouri, that serves the whole of Missouri for preparation and submission of tax foreclosure surplus and unclaimed property claims for unclaimed property held by your state treasury. If you have any questions after this video, please visit www.ruckwoodrecovery.com, shoot us an email at ruckwoodrecovery@gmail.com, or give us a call at 314-692-4272. A representative is standing by to answer whatever questions that you may have. All right, so the purpose of this video is to educate you guys on the guidelines that we licensed Heirfinders have to follow and the claims process that is laid out in those guidelines. I have mentioned the guidelines several times in videos that we have to follow and the process that we have to follow. And I do want to share that with you instead of just mentioning it. So I am going to share my screen with you guys. And just give me a second here. I am not like recording myself sitting in a chair. I am actually at my computer. Obviously, you know that. This is Zoom. So here we go. All right. I hope you guys can see that. This right here. So this is what you're seeing right here is what we get from the Missouri State Treasury as far as guidelines. We do get other things once we get our license, our licensing information, but I can't really share that type of information with you. I could give you the licensing number. I can give you the Airfinder registration number, but I cannot share those documents that have, important tax information on it. So obviously you guys know, you guys are smart. So all right, so I'm gonna start highlighting some stuff while we're chit-chatting here. So once again, Airfinder guidelines, and I'm gonna go ahead and read this to you, all right? So if I go too fast, just by all means, slow the video down, okay? I'm gonna try to go as slow as possible, and so everybody, it doesn't sound like I'm on 4 times speed. So, all right. So the following guidelines have been furnished to establish the correct procedures for Airfinder claims process, referred to the Unclaimed Property Act, RSMO 477. I do believe I told you guys in a previous video, it's 447 500 series. It's 500 to 595 for more information. So go to 447.500 all the way to 595, and that is where unclaimed property laws are laid out. Property information. There are very strict guidelines to the unclaimed property statute that pertain to what information is considered public record. Initially, the Unclaimed Property Division may only give out general information about unclaimed property items. See A below. Additional information can only be released if A, the Airfinder has already submitted the Unclaimed Property Agreement Part 1 and signed and notarized claim form, and the Unclaimed Property Division has reasonable evidence to believe that the Airfinder has located the correct owner. Once again, this is Airfinder guidelines. So once we get licensed and registered, they give us a list. They give us the entire database twice a year to go ahead and with the specific purpose of reaching out to folks to help them with that tax foreclosure, or I'm sorry, unclaimed property. So the tax foreclosure surplus list is from your county, but there's millions, and I mean millions, and I say that every time I talk about it because it is millions. And just imagine being an heir finder, having to go through those millions of accounts. It's a lot of work, but they trust us with that. They need help with it. There's just not enough people in our state really to do it. So yeah, we are entrusted with that information to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and to do the research. It takes a lot to find people sometimes. Sometimes people just don't have, you know, sometimes people just don't have information that's out there. You can check been verified, you can check the white pages, you can check the you can check everything. You can honestly check everything. And there might be a last known address because with the list, there will be a last known address, but that's a last known address, and that's for that account. So if you had, say if you had a bank account and you just completely forgot about it, it was dormant and it ended up escheating to your unclaimed property division. And we're talking about Missouri specifically. Once again, we're talking about Missouri specifically. So please, if you're from a different state, do not take any of this to heart. This is Missouri specific only. So if you have an abandoned bank account and you just completely forgot about it, it was dormant and it went to the unclaimed property division, whatever address was on that bank account is what is going to be reported to the unclaimed property division. And when you look on the unclaimed property website, or when we look in the unclaimed property database, that's the address that's going to be there. And a lot of times people have moved. So by the time it is sheets, people have moved. So that last known address is where we have to start from. That name and address is where we got to start from. And sometimes when you put that into our skip tracing databases, we might only get partial information. So that last known address might be there. A new address might be there that says, hey, this person lived here from this year to this year, but there's no phone number. There's no phone number and there's no email address. Let me tell you this, when we're skip tracing, a lot of times it comes up as there'll be like a charter email or something like that that just doesn't make sense. So we have to skip even more. And we also use companies too to do that, to give us maybe 75% accuracy, 80% accuracy. But a lot of times, unless somebody has a strong social media presence or strong public presence, it is really difficult to get 100% accuracy for, for somebody's email, phone number, address. The blood of champions, coffee. So, so anyway, for property information, like we just went over, so they send us that they give, you guys get limited information, but we will get more detailed information. And we also have to prove that we have found the correct person. So, and we can only actually get exact dollar amounts sometimes if sometimes they will keep that to themselves. All right. We will have to turn in that part 1 first. And like it says, the part 1 establishes the relationship between that Heirfinder, that licensed Heirfinder at that. Make sure you're always using a licensed and registered Heirfinder. Check with your Missouri State Treasury and verify that that is a registered Heirfinder. So we turn in that part 1. It has to be notarized. Everything has to be notarized, okay? Just make sure everything is notarized and that the claimant never pays for that. Once again, we work on contingency only. So, so it can only be released, and the Heirfinder's already the Heirfinder's already submitted the part 1 and signed notarized claim form. The unclaimed property division, if they have reasonable evidence to believe that we have located the correct individual, like I said, we have to prove that we have found the correct individual. We have to provide proof of that. So A, it can be released upon written inquiry, also found on their website and database. We have to have the first, last name, and last known address, right? The property ID. And they will tell us if it's paid or open. It will not be listed on the website if it's paid. So obviously, if they paid it out, they're not going to keep it up there on their website. And they tell us, the website is updated once a month. And the amount, if under $50, or if the property is for proceeds from a mature life insurance policy. It does not, if it's above $50, they'll tell you the exact amount. But if it's under $50, they'll tell you the exact amount. If it's above $50, it'll just say over 50. So if you find your name, you look up anybody's name right now, you go look that up, it'll say over $50, or it'll say the exact dollar amount. 2, it may be released upon request only based on the criteria noted above, the holder name, the company that turned the asset over, the amount, other identifying information, no social security number, tax ID, date of birth may be indicated as matching or not, but cannot be given out directly. So they cannot give us that information. We have to prove that we found the right person. Actually on part 2, it does require a social security number, which is why, once again, I tell people utilize and check to see if you have a registered Heirfinder, because we go through background checks. We are collecting sensitive information. So you do not want to give your personal information, identifying information to somebody who has not gone through this process, who has not gone through the registration process, who has not gotten background checks, who doesn't have tax clearance. You do not want to utilize, like I said, a consulting firm who has not gone through the process, or somebody who is not licensed and registered. Utilize a licensed and registered Heirfinder service. I can't tell you how many people have contacted RuckWood Recovery who just feel uncomfortable, who have seen our videos and have felt uncomfortable with the experience that they are having with somebody who is claiming to be an Heirfinder versus and also a consultant versus actually having a licensed Heirfinder. I have never gotten a call from a claimant or potential claimant stating that they were unsatisfied with their licensed Heirfinder. It's always with a consultant or somebody who has no license or registration with the Treasury. Plus, they don't accept claims. The Treasury does not accept claims from unlicensed or unregistered Heirfinders. So know that. So you don't want to give your PI, private information, to somebody who is not licensed or registered with your state. Please understand that. So, Social Security, tax ID, and other birth and date of birth may be indicated as matching or not, but cannot be given out directly. Property type, i.e., safe deposit box, stock dividends, checking account, date received by the unclaimed property division. So we are going to they will tell us that information once we send in that part 1. You know what I mean? And once we send in that part 1, they will bring it back to us. But we also, like I said, we have to prove that we found the correct person. Things have to match up. It says, please note, Heirfinders must submit a signed unclaimed property recovery agreement, part 1, in order to receive a claim form. Heirfinders must submit any requests or inquiries about potential or currently pending claims via written correspondence, fax, or email. And that is directly to the unclaimed property division. You do not want somebody who's not working directly with the unclaimed property division. Just going to say that now. Your claim is going to take forever. We have the ability to send them emails directly. We have the ability to send them faxes directly. We can get claims information very quickly. Very quickly. Once we prove we found the right person, we're able to get that information rather quickly. So there we go. Recovery agreements. A 2-part agreement is required in order to ensure the legality of the process and process efficiency. I stress this. We licensed Heirfinders are able to do it effectively, efficiently, and properly. We are under these, we are held to a certain standard. And if we do not respond in a certain amount of time, we can lose our registration. We can lose our registration status. So we have to work efficiently and effectively. Unclaimed property recovery agreement part 1. It validates the relationship between the Heirfinder and a claimant. Like I stated before, it states that the two have agreed that the Heirfinder will assist in recovering the claimant's unclaimed property and will collect a fee for no more than 20%. I have stated this in other videos. No more than 20%. And that is also laid out in Revised Statute of Missouri 447, 500 to 595. No more than 20%. That is our cap. I want to stress that. That is our cap. So if anybody is charging you more than 20%, you know for a fact that right there will tell you whether they are licensed, registered with your state treasury. If they are charging more than 20%, run. It is not legal. The agreement attached is only a sample. So they send us a sample agreement for us to use. Now, if we want to have another agreement that's tailored to our specific business or tailored to our specific area or tailored, just whether we want to revise it or not, we can revise it, we can not revise it, it doesn't matter. No matter what, we have to submit that to them and get that submitted for their approval. We cannot use it. Once again, it says if an Heirfinder chooses not to use the Treasury's version, a copy of their agreement must be submitted to our office for review as soon as possible. If approved, this agreement will be the standard for that specific Heirfinder. Both parties must sign and date this agreement, and the original must be submitted to the Unclaimed Property Division. So that is what they should do for part one. Here's part two. This part of the agreement is initiated and prepared by the Unclaimed Property Division. So once we send them that part one, they will send us back part two. This part of the agreement is initiated by the UPC or UPD. And mind you, if I say UPD, just know there's Unclaimed Property Division. All pertinent information will be incorporated into this part of the agreement on a name, address, amount, ID number, date received by the Unclaimed Property Division, and percentage fee allowed by law. They will tell us the percentage fee will be determined based on the time period calculated from the date it was turned over to the Unclaimed Property Division and the date that the claimant signed the Unclaimed Property Recovery Part 1. So what this means is, and it'll be included later in this video. What this means is, if it was reported 3 years ago and you signed part one with your Heirfinder, today, it means that it's been 36 months. So at that 36-month part, that is going to determine however long it's been in there. So 36 months, 20%. Claims process. UPD receives the original signed Unclaimed Property Recovery Agreement Part 1, along with the associated name, all the information, all the pertinent information, whether the person is deceased, whether the business closed. Number 2, UCP, and it really should be UPD. We'll send a claim form to the Heirfinder requesting specific documentation. So they will ask us for a death certificate. Again, the claimant should never have to go seek that out. If you have that available on hand, if you have a death certificate on hand, if you have a birth certificate stating that it's your mother, if you're an heir, you got it on her name on your birth certificate, your father's name, whatever. If you have a valid will that was submitted into probate. Speaking of, and I'm going to speak of that in just a minute. If you have a valid will that was submitted into probate and, probate had been open, yep, give that. Go ahead and give that to your Heirfinder. If you don't have anything on hand, do not worry. It is the job of the licensed and registered Heirfinder to go to vital records and get those records. It is, they should have the authorization and they should have the know-how to go get vital records for you. It is not your job. If you don't have something on hand, it is the Heirfinder's duty to go get those for you. You should not have to do anything other than to sign the paperwork. That's it. All right. Where were we? So they will request those documents from us. Heirfinder obtains signed notarized claim form requested documents and submits them to the UPD. Claims processors review the claim for approval or, if needed, send requests for additional information directly to the Heirfinder. So it will not go to the claimant. All that technical stuff, the claimant should never really have to see. If the Heirfinder reaches out and says, hey, we need this, we need that, that's fine. But it shouldn't go to the claimant. They shouldn't have to worry about it. It is up to the Heirfinder, and this is them holding us to our obligations. So if they send a letter to the holder to request additional information, a notification letter will be sent to the Heirfinder. So sometimes the Unclaimed Property Division will have incomplete incomplete information. The holder gave it to them, and mind you, these holders are supposed to be held to a standard too, but sometimes they will submit incomplete information. And once somebody makes a claim on that property, we come forward and we help somebody make a claim on that property. Unfortunately, even though we have submitted everything that needs to be submitted, the holder did not properly submit that unclaimed property to the unclaimed property division. So they might have to get more information to complete all of their administrative parts of the claim. Once the claim is approved, the unclaimed property division will send the unclaimed property agreement part 2 to be signed by both parties, which releases the specific information regarding the claim, including the allowable percentage fee. So that's when they tell us how long it's been in there, they'll send it to us saying how long it's been in there, how much we're allowed to charge. They actually, when it comes to unclaimed property, they choose our contingency fee. We don't do that for ourselves. The unclaimed property division sets it, and you will see this later on. So the unclaimed property division receives part 2 of the agreement back from the Heirfinder and initiates the check procedure. The check is issued in both names, Heirfinder and claimant, and mailed to the Heirfinder's address. If the Heirfinder is not allowed a percentage fee, the check will be made out to the claimant only and sent directly to the claimant's address. They will tell us that. So sometimes we could do all the work. Sometimes we could do all the work and spend the money and get this person through the claims process. However, if the property, only to find out that the property hasn't been in the unclaimed property division's hands long enough for us to charge a fee at all. So in that case, we would have worked for free, but the claimant will have gotten paid. So it is unfortunate when that happens, but our job, more than anything, this is them holding us to your job is to help people. So that being said, now sometimes, and I've had claimants who want to actually pay us, so when you tell them that, and I give every claimant and my representative, we give every claimant a copy of these guidelines. And when they see that, they're like, wait, you mean to tell me you're paying for this, or you just paid for an attorney for us, or this and that, but we're not. You could find out that you're not going to get paid at all when you spent, when your company spent $3,000 on an attorney to get us through airship, or you did this or that. Or you guys spent the money, the company spent money on this or that, and you just worked for free. And so in that case, if they want to pay, we actually do have a separate agreement where if they want to pay a small, like 10% fee, they can. But we do have to have that in writing that they are agreeing to do that. And they pay, they'll pay us out of that. So that is how that issue is solved. But it is sucky for an Heirfinder. Sometimes it is sucky because if you get a check for 10 grand, you don't want to pay the Heirfinder. You know what I mean? You're like, that's 10 grand for me. Like, and they're telling me I don't have to pay you. I'm not gonna. And that's fine. That's fine. It is our job to help. All right, so Heirfinder registration regulations. The following must be submitted to our office, that's a UPT, for approval as an Heirfinder in Missouri. 1, completing a registration, all right? So we have to get that Heirfinder registration number, but these are things we have to do before. A city and county, state business, city, county, or state business license. So once again, we have to be licensed with the Secretary of State. We have to be licensed to operate within our counties too, as well. So there's that. And then we have to obtain, when I say licensed and registered Heirfinder, that's what I mean. Licensed to do business in your state or county or both, because in Missouri, it's both. And registered with the Missouri State Treasury because they do not accept claims that are filed that are submitted on behalf of a Missouri resident by unregistered Heirfinders. All of our paperwork goes through a process with them, or they give us all of the paperwork. They give us all of the paperwork that we're supposed to use. A tax clearance statement from the Department of Revenue. We have to submit this very detailed tax clearance form and wait for the Department of Revenue to let us know that everything's good on our taxes. Everything has to be good on our personal taxes and everything has to be cleared on our business taxes. So, and if there's something wrong, then we will not get that tax clearance. If incorporated, a certificate of incorporation from the Secretary of State's office, or if not incorporated, a fictitious name search document from the Secretary of State. So sometimes some Heirfinders work 100% independently. They're not operating under a business name. No matter what, they still have to go through the registration process in order to be able to submit claims on behalf of a Missouri resident. So yeah, if they want to operate under a fictitious name, no matter what though, they still have to go through the Secretary of State. That's even if they're operating as just an individual, they still have to go through the Secretary of State and get some sort of approval. With RuckWood Recovery, we are a business, we are a corporation, so yeah, we didn't have to worry about the whole fictitious name thing. We just have a business license. We have the business license with state and county. So all right, so getting into those recovery fees. The property delivered to our office. So this is how much we're allowed to charge. Remember, like it said at the end. So once they receive part two, both parties which release some specific information regarding the claim, including the allowable percentage fees. So this is when they will tell us how much we can charge based on when they received it from the holder. So if it was received if the holder reported it and the unclaimed property division got it within the last 12 months, we're not allowed to charge a thing. We're not allowed to charge a thing. And that means we would have done all the work for free. More than 12 months, but less than 24, we're only allowed to charge 10%, and that's it. More than 24 months and less than 36 months, we are, only allowed to charge 15%. And if it's been in the unclaimed property division's possession for more than 36 months, 20% is the limit. It's the limit. And once again, they will tell us what that allowable fee is. So if we are charging more based on these guidelines, so if we're only allowed to charge 10% for that because it's been in their possession from 12 to 24 months, and we are caught charging more, we could lose our registration. So yeah. I know it's a lot. It's confusing to some folks, but if you've gone through it, it's not really confusing. This is why I wanted to explain it to you. So however, it still states that the two have agreed that the Heirfinder will assist in recovering the claimant's unclaimed property and will collect a fee for no more than 20%. So no matter what, if we get to that, 36 months and above, we cannot charge more than 20. That's it. There's no Heirfinder worth their salt in Missouri that's going to charge more than 20% if they don't want to lose their license and registration. So anyway, I hope that video helped you guys understand. I know, I'm just riffing here. I am just riffing, and I just want to educate you guys on the guidelines that we Heirfinders have to follow. If you have any questions after this video, please visit www.ruckwoodrecovery.com. Shoot us an email at ruckwoodrecovery@gmail.com. Also, rwr@ruckwoodrecovery.com. and give us a call at 314-692-4272. Any one of our representatives is happily standing by to answer whatever questions you may have. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care.